All across the country, more and more housing markets are slipping into an eerie standstill. Homes are being listed, but the buyers who once snapped them up are fading away. Properties linger on the market for months, untouched, as demand buckles under a mix of soaring prices, steep insurance costs, population flight, and broad economic unease. By 2026, an unexpectedly large share of American cities is watching its real estate activity grind nearly to a halt. It's not that the homes themselves have suddenly become undesirable, it's that the pool of interested buyers has thinned dramatically. Today, we're walking you through the 10 U.S. cities where purchasing a home has become something very few people are willing to do. These markets are battling swelling inventories, worsening affordability, declining populations, and one of the biggest psychological shifts among homebuyers seen in more than 10 years. And if you're just joining us on Discover the Cities, go ahead and subscribe. We dive deep into long-form investigations that explore the forces shaping America's future. With that said, let's get started. Number 10. Portland, Oregon. Portland's slide from being one of the West Coast's most sought-after places to live to becoming one of its weakest housing markets has been surprisingly fast and hard to ignore. For years, the city was a magnet for young professionals, remote workers, and creatives who flocked there from all over the country. But by 2026, that narrative has flipped completely. People are leaving at a faster pace, wages haven't kept up with living expenses, and the overall cost of owning a home has climbed to levels most residents can't realistically handle. One of the clearest indicators of the shift is the swell in housing inventory. In Multnomah County, active listings have jumped noticeably when compared to past years. Homes that easily sold for around $550,000 during Portland's peak are now struggling to draw even casual interest at $490,000, and sometimes at lower prices than that. Many sellers quickly discover they have to make substantial price cuts within the first couple of weeks just to get a few showings. The number of days a property sits on the market has surged as well, with 60 to 90 days of near silence becoming a common experience. Rising living expenses have only intensified the slowdown. Property taxes throughout the metro area have climbed sharply, leaving many homeowners paying several $1,000s more each year than they did not long ago. Insurance premiums have jumped too, driven by wildfire risks and increased building costs. For potential buyers in Portland, the monthly expense of owning a home has reached a point where it's difficult to justify even when the listing price appears lower than it used to be. As a result, demand has shifted to smaller Oregon cities where housing prices still line up with local wages. Places like Albany, Corvallis, and Salem are pulling in buyers who once planned to settle in Portland but can no longer make the numbers work. Plenty of others are skipping Oregon altogether and heading to states like Idaho, Utah, or Washington, where homeownership feels more financially manageable. Portland's condo market makes the trend even more obvious. High-rise buildings in the Pearl District and South Waterfront are showing some of the region's highest vacancy levels. Condos listed around $400,000 often need deep price cuts before anyone shows real interest, and even then, buyers approach cautiously. The urban lifestyle that once made these neighborhoods buzz doesn't hold the same draw it used to. Portland isn't falling apart, but the cooling demand is unmistakable. With high ownership costs colliding with shrinking buyer enthusiasm, the city has entered a phase where inventory keeps rising and interest continues to fade, leaving sellers to feel the pressure before anyone else. Number 9. Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland has traditionally been known as one of the country's reliably affordable places to buy a home, a city where buyers could still find solid houses at prices far lower than what you'd see on either coast. But by 2026, affordability on its own isn't enough to keep people in the market. The city is dealing with a shrinking population, sluggish job creation, and a growing sense among residents that home values aren't likely to rise in any meaningful way anytime soon. The slowdown is visible everywhere. In many parts of the county, housing inventory has jumped anywhere from 30% to 40% as homeowners rush to list before prices slip further. Homes that used to sell almost immediately, particularly those around $180,000, now sit untouched for months. Even after sellers cut prices, buyers remain cautious, unsure whether long-term appreciation will justify the investment. Suburban communities such as Parma, Euclid, and Garfield Heights are showing some of the clearest signs of cooling. Properties priced between $160,000 and $190,000 once attracted a dependable stream of interest. But in 2026, many sellers are discovering that demand is far thinner than they expected. It's now common for homes to sit on the market for 90 days or more unless they're priced significantly below comparable listings. Some owners end up reducing their asking price by $10,000 to $15,000 within just a few weeks. Economic instability is a major contributor. Job growth in the Cleveland region has been spotty, and many younger residents are choosing to move to faster-growing cities, where opportunities and wages are more promising. This exodus cuts into the pool of first-time buyers, a group that typically keeps the market lively. Without that fresh demand, the market fills up with listings much more quickly. The condition of the housing stock creates another challenge. Much of Cleveland's residential inventory is older and in need of serious updates. Potential buyers are wary of taking on aging homes that come with high utility costs, expensive renovations, and the possibility of structural issues. Adding to the pressure are rising property taxes and higher insurance premiums, both of which push monthly expenses even further out of reach. Investors aren't offering much support either. Many who purchased properties during the frenzy of 2021 and 2022, expecting rents to rise steadily, are now dealing with flat rent growth and increasing vacancy rates. As a result, a growing number of them are choosing to sell, which only adds more listings to an already saturated market. Cleveland has become a place where homeowners feel motivated to get out, yet buyers feel little reason to enter. That mismatch has left the market stuck in a slow, heavy crawl, with momentum fading and confidence steadily eroding. Number 8. New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans is experiencing one of the most dramatic housing slowdowns in the entire country, and the root of the problem comes from a factor many people overlook when thinking about real estate: insurance. Throughout the Gulf Coast, insurance premiums have climbed to levels no one would have imagined a few years ago. For a long time, a typical homeowner in New Orleans paid somewhere around $3,000 a year for insurance. But by 2026, that same kind of policy can easily rise above $9,000, and in some areas, the cost is even higher. When you combine these skyrocketing premiums with tougher flood protection requirements, the total price of owning a home has pushed well past what most potential buyers are willing or able to take on. You can see the effect in neighborhoods across the city. In Gentilly, Algiers, Mid-City, and sections of Uptown, listings regularly sit on the market for 90 days or longer. Some homes linger for 4 months without receiving a single serious offer. Sellers who once imagined bidding wars now find themselves cutting prices by $20,000 to $40,000 just to spark a little interest. But even after those reductions, many buyers approach with hesitation. Concerns about flood risk, steep insurance deductibles, and rising maintenance expenses are pushing people toward renting instead of buying. New Orleans also struggles with an aging housing stock. Many homes need expensive repairs, whether it's electrical upgrades, foundation stabilization, or roof replacements, and insurance companies have become much stricter about property conditions before they'll issue a policy. Buyers are understandably reluctant to take on a house that might require thousands of dollars in upgrades before they can even secure reasonably priced coverage. That alone eliminates a significant share of potential buyers. The demand issue is made worse by the city's long-standing population stagnation. Job growth has slowed, and many younger residents are choosing to move to other southern metros where the economies are stronger and the living costs are easier to manage. That shift drains the pool of first-time buyers, a group that usually keeps a housing market stable and active. All of this has created a market where most of the sellers genuinely need to move, but the buyers simply don't want the financial risk. Inventory keeps rising while demand steadily fades. Homes sit on the market waiting for buyers who never arrive. New Orleans has become a place where homeowners are increasingly eager, sometimes desperate to sell, while buyers grow more determined to remain on the sidelines. Number 7. Sacramento, California. Sacramento was one of the biggest beneficiaries of the pandemic-era migration wave, as countless Bay Area residents moved inland in search of more space and more affordable homes. That influx sent prices soaring, pushing the metro's median home value to nearly $600,000 at its highest point. But the energy that once defined the market has faded dramatically, and by 2026, Sacramento is facing one of the steepest housing slowdowns in the state. Affordability is the core issue. Home prices rose much faster than local wages, and today's mortgage rates have turned monthly payments into something many buyers simply can't manage. A house that fetched $600,000 just 2 years ago now struggles to sell even at $540,000, and a number of sellers have resorted to chopping their prices by 10% or more just to stay in the game. Even with those cuts, buyer activity remains noticeably weak. Inventory has ballooned across Sacramento, Elk Grove, Roseville, and Citrus Heights. Listings that used to vanish within days now linger for 40, 60, sometimes 90 days or longer. New construction communities on the outer edges of the metro are contributing additional supply, and builders feeling the slowdown themselves are rolling out aggressive incentives like rate buydowns and closing cost credits to tempt uncertain buyers. Those incentives end up putting even more pressure on existing homeowners, who often must lower their prices to compete. The overall cost of owning a home creates another major barrier. California property taxes remain high, especially for newer buyers who don't benefit from Proposition 13 protections. Insurance rates have climbed sharply as well, largely due to wildfire risks and the retreat of several major insurers from the state. Utility costs in the region rank among the highest in the country, adding significant monthly expenses on top of already heavy financial burdens. In short, owning a home in Sacramento is far more expensive than it was just a few years back. Demand from Bay Area transplants, the same group that helped fuel Sacramento's price boom, has slowed dramatically. Many of those workers prefer to stay closer to Silicon Valley now that in-person work has resumed, while others are opting to move out of California entirely, choosing places like Nevada, Utah, or Idaho, where homeownership is much more affordable. That shift leaves Sacramento in a tough spot. Too many homes on the market, too few motivated buyers, prices that remain elevated, and ownership costs that continue climbing. The result is a market flooded with listings and starved for demand, placing Sacramento among the most challenging places to buy or sell a home in California in 2026. Number 6. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis is grappling with a demand problem that few experts saw coming, and the shift is reshaping the city's housing market faster than anything residents have witnessed in many years. Even though home prices here are still below the national average, affordability by itself hasn't been enough to keep buyers engaged. The underlying issue runs deeper: long-term population decline. Over the last decade, the St. Louis metro has either lost residents or grown so slowly that it hasn't generated enough new homebuyers. By 2026, the consequences of that demographic slide are impossible to ignore. Inventory has surged across St. Louis County, and listings that once stayed active for only a few weeks now sit untouched for 50 to 90 days. Homes priced around $270,000 routinely see minimal showings and no offers at all. Sellers often find themselves slashing $15,000 to $20,000 from their asking price to recapture the attention of buyers who have become noticeably more cautious. A market that once felt steady and predictable now feels frozen. Neighborhoods that used to attract consistent interest are seeing inventory levels reminiscent of the mid-2010 seconds. Areas like Florissant, Chesterfield, and communities throughout South County all have far more active listings than pending sales. Even beautifully renovated homes struggle to stand out because buyers aren't sure prices will grow in a metro where population trends provide little confidence in future appreciation. Maintenance concerns aren't helping either. Much of St. Louis's housing stock is older, and many homes need major repairs, foundation stabilization, roof replacements, electrical updates, and other big-ticket items. Buyers are wary of taking on those responsibilities. Add in rising utility costs, higher insurance premiums, and increasing property taxes, and the total cost of owning a home starts to feel higher than the likely return. Wages in the region haven't kept pace with homeownership expenses, making it difficult for first-time buyers to save for a down payment while also keeping up with the rising cost of living. Investors, who once snapped up St. Louis properties for rental income are backing away too. Rent growth has flattened, and vacancies are increasing in several zip codes, removing another layer of demand the market once relied on. The result is a city where buyers feel no pressure to act quickly. They see that prices aren't rising, they know sellers are increasingly negotiable, and they expect more listings to keep hitting the market. Street. Louis has shifted into a pattern defined by waiting, hesitation, and steadily weakening demand, making it one of the toughest housing markets in the country for 2026. Number 5. San Jose, California. San Jose's housing slump is one of the most dramatic in the country, largely because it's happening in a market that once seemed completely untouchable. For years, the South Bay thrived on soaring tech salaries, non-stop industry expansion, and a steady stream of confident buyers who believed home values would climb forever. But by 2026, that sense of certainty has fractured, and the city's famously expensive housing market is finally feeling real strain. The biggest culprit is affordability, or rather, the lack of it. San Jose's median home price has hovered around $1.4 million, a figure that stretches the budgets of even higher-income households once you pair it with mortgage rates above 6%. With taxes and insurance factored in, the monthly payment on a median-priced home can creep toward $9,000. Plenty of tech workers could qualify on paper, but in practice, many want nothing to do with a payment that large. Inventory is climbing throughout the region. Homes in Willow Glen, Almaden Valley, Evergreen, and parts of Cambrian neighborhoods that used to field multiple offers within days are now sitting unsold for 30, 60, sometimes 90 days. Sellers who once listed boldly and expected bidding wars are cutting prices by $50,000 to $100,000 just to stay competitive. In the higher-end market, price drops of $200,000 are becoming surprisingly common. Remote work has thinned buyer demand even further. With fewer employees required to live within commuting distance of Silicon Valley offices, a growing wave of workers is choosing to leave California altogether. Many are relocating to states like Colorado, Texas, and Washington, where buying a home is far more realistic. That shift has removed a crucial segment of demand that once kept San Jose's market at a constant boil. The condo sector is cooling even faster. Downtown high-rise units listed around $800,000 often sit without a single offer, thanks in part to HOA, fees that can exceed $700 per month, and insurance costs tied to earthquake exposure. For many buyers, the overall expense simply doesn't match the lifestyle trade-off. Even tech-driven investors are stepping back. With shaky conditions in the tech industry and volatility in stock-based compensation a major source of down payments, many would-be buyers are choosing to wait rather than gamble on prices that may already be at their ceiling. San Jose is still a wealthy and influential city, but it has become a risky place for new buyers. Prices remain extremely high, demand is gradually fading, and the era of automatic appreciation is gone. In 2026, few markets in the United States pose more financial uncertainty than the very heart of Silicon Valley. Number 4. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis is seeing one of the steepest drops in homebuyer activity of any major southern city, and the reasons stretch beyond simple affordability. For years, Memphis appealed to both local buyers and out-of-state investors who viewed it as a dependable, income-producing market. But by 2026, that sense of stability has been shaken. More people are moving out. Concerns about crime continue to shape buyer decisions, and doubts about long-term appreciation are steering many would-be homeowners toward renting or leaving the metro entirely. Across Shelby County, the slowdown is easy to spot. Neighborhoods in Cordova, Raleigh, Bartlett, and Whitehaven are showing a sizable jump in available listings. Homes priced around $250,000, one of the most common price points in Memphis, are now sitting for 40 to 60 days with little to no movement. Just a few years ago, that same price range attracted immediate attention. Sellers are having to adjust quickly. A home listed at $250,000 often drops to about $235,000 within the first month. Some owners are slashing prices even more aggressively as new listings continue stacking up each week. Cuts of 15% to 20% aren't rare for properties that fail to gain traction. Buyers understand this and often wait intentionally. confident they'll get a better deal simply by being patient. The retreat of investors has made the situation worse. From 2018 through 2022, Memphis was a major destination for rental investors, many of whom bought entire blocks of homes, creating intense competition for local buyers. But now, a lot of those same investors are offloading their properties, squeezed by rising vacancies, higher maintenance costs, and rent growth that has essentially stalled. Their exit is flooding the market with even more supply. Crime perceptions also play a significant role. While the issue isn't uniform across the metro area, certain zip codes have developed reputations that make first-time buyers and families hesitant. Many choose to rent instead of locking themselves into a 30-year mortgage in a neighborhood they feel uncertain about. Memphis still looks affordable on paper, but low prices alone aren't enough to counteract falling demand, climbing inventory, and negative population trends. Buyers are cautious, investors have pulled back, and the result is a market where listings are piling up faster than interested buyers can absorb them. Number 3. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore has become one of the slowest and most fragile housing markets in the entire Mid-Atlantic region. Years of population decline, an aging housing stock, and some of the highest tax burdens in the area have created a market where sellers far outnumber interested buyers. By 2026, all of these pressures have converged, and the slowdown is too obvious to overlook. Inventory has climbed by more than 30% in many zip codes, especially in neighborhoods dominated by older row homes that require steep renovation costs. Listings in places like Hamilton, Bel Air, Edison, and parts of northwest Baltimore routinely sit on the market for 60 to 90 days with almost no progress. Even typically stronger suburbs such as Catonsville and Towson are seeing homes stay active far longer than they did just a few years back. Pricing trends point in the same direction. Properties that once reached $300,000 during the market's hotter years rarely hit those figures now. Sellers are frequently dropping their asking prices by $20,000 to $30,000, and even steeper cuts are common when someone needs to sell quickly. Buyers understand that many of these homes need major updates, new roofs, electrical rewiring, plumbing repairs, mold remediation, or other costly fixes. In a market with uncertain appreciation, few are eager to take on a property that could demand tens of thousands of dollars in repairs before it's truly move-in ready. Carrying costs make the situation even heavier. Baltimore City has some of the highest property taxes along the East Coast. When you combine that with rising insurance premiums, many buyers realize they can purchase newer homes in nearby counties, areas with stronger public services and similar monthly payments. That calculation continues to shrink the pool of buyers considering homes inside the city limits. Investors have pulled back as well. Many who bought in 2020 or 2021, anticipating rising rents and steady appreciation, are now facing stagnant values and higher vacancy rates. A growing number of them are choosing to sell, adding even more homes to a market already flooded with listings. Baltimore now finds itself in a tough position. Too much inventory, too little demand, and fading confidence that prices will rebound anytime soon. Among Mid-Atlantic markets, it stands out as one of the clearest examples of a place where buying a home in 2026 carries genuine financial risk. Number 2. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Minneapolis is going through one of the steepest drop-offs in buyer activity anywhere in the Midwest, and the slowdown stems from a rare mix of affordability challenges, climate-driven migration, and fading economic confidence. For years, the city was viewed as one of the region's most stable markets, strong job opportunities, solid wage growth, and a population that generally trended upward. But heading into 2026, that steady engine has begun to sputter. The market that once felt reliably predictable is now losing momentum. Affordability is at the center of the issue. The median home price, sitting near $400,000, represents a substantial jump from where it was before the pandemic. Neighborhoods like Nokomis, Longfellow, and Camden areas that once offered approachable starter homes now feel financially out of reach for many first-time buyers. Elevated interest rates have added hundreds of dollars to monthly payments, pushing more households toward renting rather than stretching their budgets to buy. Inventory continues to build across Hennepin County. Many listings are staying active for 60 to 90 days, even after price reductions of $10,000 to $15,000. Homes that would have attracted intense bidding wars in 2020 and 2021 now receive little more than casual foot traffic. Suburban communities such as Eden Prairie, Maple Grove, and parts of South Minneapolis are seeing some of the most dramatic increases in available homes, highlighting how widespread the demand decline has become. Climate realities are also shaping buyer behavior in a way that wasn't seen a decade ago. Outmigration during Minnesota's long, harsh winters is accelerating. Residents dealing with rising heating costs, limited daylight, and extended cold spells are increasingly choosing to relocate to warmer regions like Colorado, Arizona, and Texas. Every household that leaves shrinks the buyer base, making it harder for the market to absorb new listings. On top of that, the age of the city's housing stock adds another barrier. Much of Minneapolis is filled with pre-war homes that require meaningful updates, better insulation, new windows, upgraded plumbing, or electrical modernization. With renovation costs climbing, buyers are more hesitant than ever. Many prefer newer construction in the suburbs or decide to postpone purchasing altogether. Job growth has leveled off instead of accelerating, leading to more uncertainty about future appreciation. Without strong economic tailwinds, fewer buyers feel confident placing big bets on long-term home values. As 2026 approaches, Minneapolis has become a market defined by hesitation. Buyers are taking their time, sellers are lowering expectations, and the city is transitioning into one of its slowest and least predictable housing periods in more than 10 years. Number 1. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit lands in the number 1 position because its housing slowdown is touching nearly every corner of the city and every price point. Even though Detroit has made meaningful strides over the last decade, it still faces deep structural challenges, and in 2026, those issues have combined to create one of the weakest buyer markets anywhere in the United States. Population decline remains the strongest drag on demand. Each year, more residents leave Detroit than move in, and many families relocating from the city opt for surrounding suburbs, places like Dearborn, Southfield, or Troy, rather than remaining within Detroit's boundaries. That steady outward migration shrinks the buyer pool and limits the city's ability to sustain rising home values. Job growth has improved in certain sectors, but overall it remains uneven, leaving many potential buyers uncertain about long-term price appreciation. Meanwhile, inventory has surged across the region. Homes priced around $160,000. Once an ideal starting point for first-time buyers, now linger on the market for 60 to 90 days. Sellers commonly cut their asking prices by 10% to 15%, and reductions of $20,000 or more often fail to generate meaningful interest. Properties listed above $200,000 face even tougher conditions unless they are fully renovated. Detroit's aging housing stock is one of its biggest hurdles. Many homes need major work roof replacements, electrical updates, plumbing repairs, foundation stabilization, and extensive cosmetic improvements. Renovation costs have skyrocketed as labor and material prices continue to rise, turning fixer-uppers into financial gambles most buyers are unwilling to take. For many households, the cost of repairs simply outweighs any potential return on investment. Insurance adds another layer of difficulty. Older homes with outdated wiring, structural wear, or other risks can be extremely expensive to insure, placing them out of reach for younger or first-time buyers working with tighter budgets. Investors, who once played an outsized role in Detroit's housing recovery, are also stepping back. Rent growth has slowed dramatically. Vacancies have increased in multiple neighborhoods, and ongoing maintenance costs continue to climb. As investors unload properties, the market becomes even more saturated with supply. Heading into 2026, Detroit confronts a shrinking group of active buyers paired with a growing wave of listings. That imbalance is widening month by month. The city stands as one of the clearest examples of a major American market where buyers have stepped away and sellers are facing some of the toughest conditions in the country. These 10 cities illustrate a major shift underway in the national housing landscape. Places once powered by migration, relative affordability, or lifestyle appeal are now watching demand cool as buyers pull back. Rising inventory, stagnant incomes, higher insurance costs, and Shifting population patterns are combining to reshape market dynamics across the United States. If you want more in-depth, cinematic, long-form reports on the cities shaping America's future, be sure to subscribe to Discover the Cities.